Welcome to Season 3 of the Builders Podcast. I'm Matt Levenhagen. Here we share the journeys, strategies, and lessons that help entrepreneurs build what's next. Builders helping builders. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Damon Darnall. I have been messing up names so much lately. I think I'm in my own head now. Like every time I start a podcast, I'm going to mess something up. But Damon, this is your second time back. This is part 2. If those of you interested in part 1, you can go take a look at that. We got into basically his background, his story about how you got into drones, how you built the drone business, and then what about drones. You know, what they all do, like the 300 plus different types of businesses you can build and all that. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
What's your actual business? If you want to take a minute or two, just to talk about kind of what you guys all do.
Yeah. And Matt, thanks for having me back on again. It's great to see you. So we, the drones have been an integral part of my life since, I was little. I was literally love at first flight. And one of the things, though, it was basically a self-regulating industry. And what I mean by that is the drones were so difficult to fly. First of all, we had to build them all. And it took on average a minimum of a couple hundred hours, sometimes a couple thousand hours to build them. So most people, it would take 6 to 12 months to get a drone built because they had lives and work and all that stuff. And then there weren't any avenues to generate money. And it took literally thousands of flight hours to get competent enough where you could actually fly. So for a long time, there were just a handful of people that could operate them at a commercial level. And it was just so difficult. But technology really shifted. Actually, thanks to these things, these supercomputers we carry in our pockets, and they have micro accelerometers and electronic gyros and stuff so we can play games with them and it knows exactly where everything is. Well, that drove the price down of these electronics and also the size and weight and everything. And technology just developed. So it was probably around 10 years ago where there was a company that came out with the first plug and play or ready to fly drone where you didn't have to build it or assemble it or do any of the stuff. And it was relatively easy to fly because it used all this advanced computing. And basically the way these things work, which is pretty mind-boggling if you think about it, a quadcopter, which has 4 motors and 4 propellers, which most people are accustomed when they see a drone. And what happens is 2 of the motors rotate clockwise, the other 2 rotate counterclockwise. And that's how the drone can actually sit there and fly. And if you want to, say, rotate the drone to the left or rotate it to the right, you just move the stick to the left or right. And then the computer is doing literally thousands of computations every second. And not only is it keeping the drone level by adding power, taking away power to the different motors, but it's also using GPS and other sensors to keep it in one spot. So in other words, if there's a 20 mile an hour wind blowing this way, the drone will just fly automatically 20 miles an hour right into the wind to stay roughly in that GPS coordinates. But if you're just turning left or right, what it does is it decreases power to the 2 counter-rotating motors, increases power to the regular clockwise rotating motors, causing a drone to just pivot on itself and turn without changing the angle or the altitude or adjusting for the wind or moving physically anywhere. And it's just, the reason no one could fly these things is because our little human brains can't input 20,000 inputs and get them to our fingers in less than a second. We can barely do a couple of them. And so once we had all these little computers in there, it just kind of opened the floodgates and they got ridiculously easy to fly, where the computers are doing 95% of the work. We're just really kind of telling it, go over there.
Right.
They let go of it, it just stays.
And that all happened in the last 15 years or so?
Yeah, it really did. The technology just started getting a little better and a little better. We got all the stuff, the self-leveling drones, because one of the big challenges with these teaching people to fly was maintaining your altitude and the angles and pitch and yaw and all that stuff. And it was really adding in that altitude to try and keep that where you're constantly moving. It's kind of like flying a helicopter. You're constantly adjusting the power and the collective pitch to keep it hovering. Well, once that burden got taken off of our brains, then it got a lot easier. Then there were new developments that came out with new sensors and stuff that made it even better and easier. And I won't get into all the technical stuff, but basically right now they're easier to fly and harder to crash than ever before. And it just opened the floodgates up for this industry. Now the industry's been around for a long time. In fact, the first patent on a drone in America was by a guy named Nicholas Tesla back in 1898. So it's been around a long time, but it was really slow in the adoption because there just wasn't that much of a supply of uses for it. And I started my commercial drone business back in 1993, but there were just a handful of us that did stuff with it, and we were limited by the technology and what we could do. But like I said, and fast forward 10 years ago, and now all of a sudden anybody, you could go to Best Buy or Costco and pick up a drone and go out there and actually start to do work and make money with it. And that just opened the floodgates with businesses too now, because now all of a sudden they started thinking, oh, well, could we do this and could we do this? And we went from 60 different kind of business verticals to 100 to 150 to 2 to 3. Now we're over 300 that we talked about last time. So just
I believe it. You've opened up the floodgates, and it's hilarious. I was going to share this with you. I literally think it was the day after we recorded our first episode, and we got a roof put on our house like last year, and we needed some chimney work. So I had 2 people come out already to take a look, and both of them used a drone. In fact, one guy, I was out there with him while he was using it, and I actually was hanging out with them. I'm like, can I take a picture of this? I have a picture of it on the truck. So I thought, well, maybe I'll flash it up here, show you this drone. But it was amazing watching him operate this thing, and where they could like get it just like to go around the chimney, and it could sense like the distance and stuff. So when hit it, and it was windy that day, so it's crazy. So here's just like some random roofers or whatever, using a drone. And there's that. I'm like, okay, now it's kind of one of those things where you think of a color of a car or something, you're going to see it all over the place,
Right. Yeah. Now you start seeing it and hearing it. And,
so I thought it was pretty awesome.
That's super cool. And I love seeing people using that on, to make their life safer. Cause I mean, there are so many roofing accidents. Guys fall off the roof all the time. You can go on YouTube and see all these clips of adjusters that misstep and they just fall off, and it's so much stuff. And we've had drones where we've had 3 inspectors, like a trainee, a master inspector, and then like a supervisor, and then we'll fly the drone over, and almost every time we can pick up stuff that they missed, because no matter how skilled or how good you are, you just don't get all the angles, and your main purpose on the roof is to stay alive, right? To not fall off. Right. So a lot of your brain power is being diverted, and the way shadows work and stuff like that. And then you add AI into the equation, where not only can we fly over, like what the guy that was doing your chimney inspection, he probably, he's utilizing all the sensors. He wasn't having to worry about adjusting for the wind. It's got this, basically it's facial recognition technology for objects. And so it can detect objects and keep you a safe distance, and they're omnidirectional sensors, so it works all the way around the drone and makes it pretty easy. But the next step above that is we can fly over and basically map the roof, where we fly over and we might take 50 pictures of the roof, and then we stitch them all together so it makes a really high resolution single picture that allows you to zoom out and see the whole thing, or zoom in and literally see a little a thumbnail size crack or anything, and then we can run it through software programs with AI that will detect all of the anomalies and then put out these reports and kind of tell you what are areas you need to focus on or not, or how many potential, if there's water leaks or water puddling, or if there's the shingles are worn down to a certain percentage. Or I mean, it's amazing what we can get from it, and that's just the roofs.
And I think that we won't stick on roofs the whole time, or chimneys, but I find it fascinating because it seemed like one of them that was using it, she could have been a roofer, but I feel like the actual people that actually work on roofs or jump on roofs and stuff, they don't need to be out in the field doing, these quotes and stuff. They can send anybody out there that knows how to run a drone. And so I think that opens up the possibility, like you can, have your guys working on the actual projects or the, whatever they're doing, but you can have, it kind of opens up more opportunities for anyone to go out there and do something. That's awesome. So that was, I just thought it was wild. It was literally like the next day. Like, this is so weird.
That karma.
And yeah, right. Exactly. So, and again, the first episode is great. I recommend anybody to watch it. I sent it to a few people I know that are interested in drones myself, like cool. In personal life, like my dad. I sent him it. And he's like, I'm like, you gotta watch this, because he's really into drones. But anyway, so let's talk about the businesses. So how did that? So the technology, kind of everything was a perfect storm. Everything is coming together. You got technology, you got AI now, you got all this stuff kind of coming together to make flying the drones so much easier. And it makes a lot of sense because having that technology to actually do that instead of, like you said, the human brain trying to figure out how to stay away from something when the wind's changing and all that stuff. So that's really cool. But you said you had the business in '93. How did all this technology change your business, and what all happened there, and what did you end up doing?
Well, so it really the opportunity opened up, and we saw the opportunity, and so we took advantage of it, and it really morphed because what I had helped a few people, over the years start their own drone business, but man, it was so hard because, like I said, it took so long for someone to get proficient enough to operate at a commercial level. So typically about 5,000 to 7,000 flight hours before they were good enough to do it. And so I would, these people that I worked with, we spend years working together on flight skills and proficiency and getting up to par. Well, with this big technology shift, I thought, man, well, we could open this up, and maybe without all the intensive training and all the hand holding and the years and years of practice and perfecting it. And so what I did is I actually started a beta program, and I took a group of people, and I had 3 criteria. One, they couldn't have any drone experience. They couldn't have any photography or videography experience because I thought that'd be unfair. And then no successful entrepreneurial experience. And the way we defined that was they could have never had a business where they created a net revenue of more than $42,500 a year. The reason that is there was a couple people that I really wanted them to take advantage of the opportunity, and they were around that $40,000, range. Some of them would do $1 million in gross sales, if they were like a roofer or an HVAC guy or something. But by the time you pay all your employees and the labor and insurance and materials, and that $1 million dwindles down to $38,000 after taxes, at the end of the year. Right. And so that was the criteria. And so we put everyone in, and I was a lot nervous because when I'd done this in the past, I was holding their hand and doing a lot of it for them in the beginning. And this was intentionally kind of really hands off. I just kind of made a roadmap, had them commit. They had to work every day on the drone business, even if it was only for an hour. Because the other challenge was everybody in this beta program I created was doing it part-time, except for one person. One person did it full-time, but everyone else did it part-time. So they had their full-time businesses that they ran or a full-time job that they worked. And but they were required to do at least an hour a day towards the drone business and kind of follow the roadmap, and intentionally fairly hands-off from me just to kind of see if it would work or not. The other thing
how did you come up with the roadmap? Is it just based on your experience?
Yeah, it was the stuff so out of all the different things that I had done over the years, kind of what would be one of the easiest things to get into that required the least amount of skill as far as operating the drone and also equipment-wise, because there's some stuff that requires, like if you get into thermal or LiDAR or NDVI imagery or some other stuff that gets into more expensive equipment. And then also stuff that was less dependent on back-end software that you had to learn and run. And also there's a big expense to that too. So wanted to keep the expenses as low as possible. To their detriment, one of the things, I didn't want them to buy an expensive drone because I thought that'd be an unfair advantage. It's like, hey, I want to set you up to drive an Uber, so here's a Bugatti. Let's see if you can book more rides with a Bugatti, type of thing, right? And so they had to start with just the some really cheap equipment. In fact, back then we didn't have any good economical cameras that we could put on a small economic drone. Usually back then we were putting, for doing like cinematography stuff, we were putting reds on great big drones that we built, and or DSLRs for doing still pictures on big drones. And so the little drones we had on fly, they couldn't carry much. So this was the early GoPros. So, but the GoPro cameras, I don't know if you remember them back in the day, the fisheye was so bad, like the edges of the image would just be curved and looked horrible. So there was a couple companies that would replace the lenses, and you'd buy the camera for whatever it was, $300. You send it off and pay $800 to have a glass lens put in that would be similar focal length, but it would get rid of all the fisheye and it was clearer. And then the problem was we didn't have any video feedback. Like now you can look at your controller or look at your phone and see what the drone sees. Back then we couldn't. You would just set your GoPro to take a picture every 2 seconds and take off and go fly. And you would just hopefully position the drone where it would get whatever you were shooting. You come back and you have 400 pictures. Yeah, and you just scroll through all the pictures and you're like, oh, I can use that one. Yeah, I can use that one. And maybe you get 1 or 2 out of the 400 and you delete the rest, and then you could get them. And like video was super annoying because you're like, oh, I want to video this. We had to come back, land a drone, stop the pictures, change it from picture mode to video mode, hit record, take off, and record the entire flight till you came back and physically push the button to stop it. Even with those inconveniences, it was 1,000 times better than what we had before. So anyway, we had these guys go and start this beta program and following the roadmap. Every day they had, certain things they needed to do, and going out and getting their first deal and then building on it and referrals. And we walked them through the whole thing. The cool thing was at the end of the year, and the goal was to see if we could get them to 6 figures in 12 months. So that was to go from 0 to 6 figures with no photography, no drone experience, and no entrepreneurial experience. And the good news was everybody hit the mark. They all exceeded after taxes and net revenue, they all exceeded the 6-figure mark. And so then I was like, all right, this will work. So then we rolled it out, started the Sky Network. And right now it's the largest network of professional drone entrepreneurs in the world right now. And so we teach people how to do basically that same thing. Now we're several years later down the road, and we've got all kinds of extra tools and resources and refinements and escalation paths and certifications and and all that. And it's been really cool because at first I did it. It was twofold. One was my passion for aviation and drones, and then sharing that with people. Probably that was probably number 2. Number 1 was revenue, right? Like this could be a business and they could make money. And then the third thing, which I didn't know, now it's flip-flopped, and now the third is actually the most important, and it's actually helping people. And I've never seen a business that you can go out and you can start and literally be in the black, like profitable after your investment and everything in literally less than a month. Most businesses, you're like, if you start a franchise or a restaurant or anything like that, I mean, you're putting in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and you're working for the first 3 to 5 years just to break even, to get to zero. And then when you finally get to zero, then you can start to make some money. And seeing the lives that change, like we had one kid that came through our program. We have a 3-day immersion training where it's kind of a introduction to everything that's available and what you can do and how you can actually get started. And it's like 10-hour days, and people are like, oh my gosh, how people stay there. And it's like, yeah, at the end, people are like, oh, I wish we had more. It's crazy, but we make it entertaining and fun. Edutainment, right? Educational entertainment.
Yeah, there you go.
And but this one kid came through. He was a junior in high school, and so he started his drone business. And his parents were both teachers, and so the kid built his business up and started making some pretty serious money. And he was graduating the next year, and he was gonna go off to college. But he told his parents that, he said, hey, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to keep running my drone business. I can always go to college later. And his parents, educators, they kind of freaked out about that. They're like, right. That's not what you do. And he said, and so they had a whole discussion. He said, look, he pulled up all the numbers and everything he did, and he had actually generated more money than both of his parents combined as a senior in high school, going to high school full time, and running his drone business. And so his parents were like, well, I guess we can't argue with it. You could always go
Yeah,
later.
you can, right.
And he just kept building it up. And then I remember hearing a story. There was one guy that was, I think he was a year or 2 years, I think he was 2 years older than him. And he was one of his, yeah, I guess, mentors that he looked up to. And this guy was into cinematography and film and just a brilliant guy. And he went off to some prestigious film school and got his 4-year degree and came out and he couldn't get a job. And so he had reached back out to him. And so the kid who had looked up to him all this time is just this amazing mentor, ends up hiring this guy for what he, and his quote was, for pennies on the dollar. I couldn't believe it. And then after this guy spent 4 years in college, he didn't know anything like in the real world. It was all theory based stuff. And he had to retrain him on how to do things and what to do in the real world. And he said, I'm so thankful, because in that time he had made, I think he built his business up to a $500,000 business at that point, this kid. And he was, I think, 19 or 20 at the time. And, and he's like, the real world skills I got in running a business, dwarfs what he knows. And he was like, it's just so eye opening. I didn't think I was learning anything, but I learned so much more, by being out there doing it. I said, yeah, brother, you got a PhD in results. That's what you got.
Yeah. You get instant feedback when you're in business for yourself, and like if you're doing something right or wrong, or
yeah. That's one thing I love about the marketplace. It'll tell you. You could have the greatest idea in the world, but if the marketplace doesn't like it, you get instant feedback, and
exactly
time to pivot and do something else. So it's that kind of stuff that really jazzes me. And we've had stuff on all spectrums. We have a lot of military guys, veterans and stuff. And these guys do amazing, because I think part of the reason they do so well is, number one, they're not afraid to take orders and execute on the orders, right? And they're used to doing that, and they're not afraid of work. They're used to making stuff happen and just doing it. Where I see more civilians, they get more on the kind of questioning the roadmap. It's kind of like a recipe. It's like, I want to bake a chocolate cake, and then you're following a recipe and you're like, I really don't like flour. I don't think I'm going to put flour in this cake, and then they mess with the recipe or the formula, and then you get a different result, radically different result, right? Without doing it. And the military guys don't. They just recipe all the way through, and then they get the results. We had one kid that was out of the military and having a hard time adjusting to civilian life, as most people do. And, because this kid was, he was the bomb. He was the hero and the bomb and well respected in the military, and he gets out and he's just nobody. And so he's really big on family. He's got a brand new baby girl, and he wanted to provide for his family, and he was struggling doing it. So he ends up going off and working in the, kind of doing in oil cleanup, environmental stuff. So he's working like 17, 18-hour days in the hot blistering West Texas sun, and in the freezing West Texas winters, and just covered in head to toe in sludge and mud and stuff all day. But he was making decent money until he wasn't, right? Until the oil prices dropped as they fluctuate. And then all of a sudden he went from, making, I think he averaged it out, and he was making like, for all the time he was there, it was around $4 an hour is what it ended up being. He was living in a little trailer in the middle of nowhere. Missed his daughter's first steps, first words, birthdays, and just didn't know what to do. And so then he heard about us, came to one of our trainings, and poor guy was like broker than broke. His cards were all maxed out. He was he basically borrowed fund. I don't know how he got the money. I don't know if it was from family or like a home equity loan or something, but he was basically on the last bit of his borrowed funds. And he didn't even have enough money to pay all of his expenses, to pay his mortgage and all the expenses that month. And he said it was such a hard time, because even if I went to the grocery store and I wanted to buy $10 of stuff, I had to check the bank account balance on my debit card to make sure I could afford it, because things were just that tight. And so he made the leap and decided to start his drone business. And that very Monday, we finished the event on Saturday, and then Monday he goes out and follows the roadmap and gets his first paycheck. And then just that week, just went out there and just kept replicating it. And then, he made more money that first week than he did the whole last month. And he was able to pay. I think it was in the first month or 6 weeks, he was able to pay off the loan. And his life has radically changed now. Now he's a big pillar in the community. He had actually built up, and this is a crazy number, and I don't want to scare people, but he's built his drone business to over $1 million drone business, which is pretty cool. And he's been able to do some amazing things, with that.
Yeah. So somebody like him or anybody, like, how do they? Because you had mentioned, we talked about there's hundreds of different ways you can make money. Is like what like with your roadmap, is part of the roadmap choosing what you're going to do, like based on some factors, maybe what you want to do or your experience or something like that, and then from there, how do you choose your direction?
Yeah, it's a great question, a great point. We get all the time. So what I recommend everyone does is kind of decide what they love, like what they would love to do. It's kind of cheesy, but it's true, because the more you like it, then the less it's going to feel like work, and you're gonna be more interested in it. And so for some, that's like, the energy sector is a really big thing, and they want to work with wind farms or work with power plants or nuclear power plants or any oil refineries. Or other people, it might be animal conservation. Like we have one of our guys that he's got this huge project in Africa, and they're saving all these elephants from the poachers, and it's really creative. He's got drones that track the elephants. He's got another set of drones that track the poachers, and then he has deterrent drones, which actually have these cayenne pepper bombs. And it was really interesting as he explained all this. Yeah, they're these little and it's so funny. These bombs they have just cayenne pepper in them, and elephants, their sense of smell is crazy sensitive. So you can drop one of these little cayenne pepper bombs, and they're a little tiny, like a little water balloon, and they can smell it for up to 2 miles away. So you can herd the elephants using the wind. You just drop it upwind, and you can herd them away from the poachers or away from where they go. So that way they can get the wildlife service, which is really like, I don't know, missionaries.
Yeah, I don't know why I was envisioning them like dropping these bombs on the poachers.
No, they track dude, these poachers, it's like a war zone. These guys are like militia. Because it's the wildlife guys they're like our Navy SEALs over here. It's crazy how violent and murderous these guys are. But the ivy on the tusk, I guess, on the black market is just such a huge thing, and they just slaughter these elephants for the ivy. And so this guy's his name's Joe, and he's just really passionate about it. So, but the funny thing is that they had a real challenge of getting a deployment device, because they didn't want to make anything that was going to be too explosive. So it's got essentially like a little firecracker, and they would use like balloons. But the problem was the capsaicin in the cayenne pepper would eat through the balloon material. So they tried all kinds of different balloons. They tried weather balloons, and they tried thinner and thicker, and then they tried doing gloves and latex and vinyl and all this stuff. And the one thing they found that finally works, that will hold the bombs until they need to be deployed, and they're thin enough when they're dropped, they'll actually blow up and the powder goes up, is a lambskin condom. That's the only thing that they've been able to
Where did you come up with that idea? You have one of those laying around?
I was like, who had that idea, right? But that's what worked, and that's what they're doing. But so anyway, so back to the question is, so I think it's important to kind of identify what you love, but what's more important is to put a pin in that and go for what we call kind of low-hanging fruit, which is the fastest path to cash. So we've identified about 20 different vertical markets and rated them from, beginner, intermediate, and a little more advanced. And those are what we built kind of roadmaps around. So these are anything from like real estate. And if you look at it, like if energy was your deal and you wanted to do a FLIR stack inspection at an oil refinery, well, the sensor that you need to buy for that is about $250,000. And you need to buy a big heavy lifter drone. Essentially, you need to custom build one, which is going to be another $75,000 grand on top of that. So you've got, over $600,000 in equipment, because anytime you show up on a professional site, you got to have a backup in case something goes wrong, especially with this technology. So, and there just aren't tons of oil refineries out there. Versus you look at like real estate with houses, and now you don't need $600,000 in equipment, you need $1,500 in equipment to go out and do it. And you don't, and there are more houses for sale than there are oil refineries, in the United States. So it's just it's easier. You make it up on volume, and the skill level and the sales cycle, all that stuff is just better. So we've got we've got them from like doing hotels and resorts, doing aerial funerals where we drop ashes, of pets or loved ones, film the whole thing and put it to music, and they have this really epic, amazing thing that they can do and have it on, over the ocean or a river or the special area that was ever special to them, and stuff, which is cool. Now, Christmas lights this time of year is a big deal because, these people spend $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 putting Christmas lights up for a month. And so for them to spend a couple $100s on getting some pictures and video of that, it's kind of a no-brainer. What's one of the reasons that people put up the Christmas lights? It's kind of to brag to the neighbors, right? So now you've got aerial video and all this stuff and pictures you can put on all your Facebook stuff and everything. And this is a great lead-in because a lot of the people that are investing this kind of money and hiring people to put up the Christmas lights, they're typically business owners. So now you might have an introduction that you would never have before. And different things you can do for them. And there's, so much stuff like on inspections. I think we touched on it before, but the fact that we're not using drones for all inspections now just blows my mind. Last year there were over 300 fatalities with inspection companies, power line, wind farms, bridges, dams, solar farms, all that stuff. And the crazy part is 82% of those fatalities, they were just doing a routine visual inspection a drone could easily do. And they're just not, they haven't implemented it yet. They know that they're going to be, but it's change. It's like, it's like when computers came, the typewriter guys are like, we're fine. No one's ever going to stop using typewriters, right? Or film, the film camera guys when digital came out. Oh, digital's crap. No, that'll never last, right? And now we see what happens. You got to adapt. So it will happen, but it's crazy that we could be saving lives and getting better data, that actionable data for these guys to be able to use and stuff, which is just nuts. So anyway, going back to the original question, we've kind of done a lot of the heavy lifting and identified the markets and then built these very comprehensive roadmaps around it. Like we have promotional videos and flyers and brochures, and we've split tested all this stuff to painstaking lengths. Hired, professional copywriters, because most people don't understand in the marketing world, it's not the pretty that sells, it's the copy that sells. You could take literally like a website which is black and white words on it and have it outperform the prettiest looking website. Now it won't win the award for the cutest commercial during Super Bowl, but all those people, they say, oh, what was the one you liked? Oh, I love the one with whatever it was. What company was that? Oh, I have no idea. Right? People have no idea. They spent millions and millions of dollars for that commercial, and it won an award, but it didn't help their business, and no one even knows it's related to their business. So we spent a lot of time and money and split testing on that, and then everyone gets to benefit from it. We built, if there's a presentation involved, we built presentations with all the scripts and everything that's there, all the marketing assets, and then we have these things called business plans, which are, or we call them business plans, and they're really like, I guess, the roadmap. So it's just a comprehensive guide on that particular vertical market. So it identifies the marketplace, identifies the customer, what are his hot buttons, what are you going to be offering, how are you going to price it, how are you going to deliver it, every single step from the introduction to the pitch, to getting referrals, to getting upsells, to where the settings on the drone and the camera and the positioning and, resources for the editing and how you deliver it and upsell and how you actually get it to the client and getting the referrals and working the referrals and everything from A to Z for that particular business vertical. And we call it a business plan because it's a plan for building your business, but
Yeah.
it's not used to get a loan
Right.
from the bank like traditional
Right.
business plans
Right.
are. We just call it that
Man,
internally.
wish I would have had that for my business
Yeah, yeah. Well,
8 years ago.
that's dude. And that's what I built everything. It was like everything I wish I had when I started my business.
Right.
I just came up with this big Santa Claus list of everything I wish I had. Like another thing that drove me bonkers the whole time I had my drone business was I had to pay full retail for my drones. Because like the
Mm,
biggest drone manufacturer out there now is DJI, and there's some turmoil with them right now. From a political lobbyist side that's making things a little rough for them here in the U.S. But they're still they have like over 80% of the market share in the United States, and the number two person or the number two company has less than 2%. I mean,
oh
that's how
wow.
big the difference is between these guys. But anyway, that was the whole point with that, and the whole thing with DJI being just so massive and what they've been able to do is I had to pay retail. And DJI, if I wanted to buy wholesale, I had to spend $250,000 on an initial order and then maintain a $250,000 quarterly purchase. So I have to spend $1 million a year with a $250,000 quarterly minimum, or I lose my wholesale account. And nobody could do that as a solo drone entrepreneur.
Right.
But as the network, we can easily hit that number. And so we just pass on the wholesale pricing to all of our members as a perk of the membership. So
Very
that's just
cool.
like one little example of all the
Yeah.
things that I wanted to do. And then the other thing was editing. We were doing. I was at one point I was paying $8 a picture to have my pictures edited and photoshopped and HDR'd and the whole process because not that I couldn't do it, but it was just there weren't enough hours in the day because I was out shooting all day and then I'd come back and now I'd have thousands of pictures to go through. And so I was paying these guys, $8 a picture to get this done. And so we've got in-house editors now for our network, and we get it done for 75 cents a picture. So and sometimes we're processing 1 million pictures a month. So these guys are the guys that are doing higher volume. These guys are saving tens of thousands of dollars just in editing fees,
Nice.
literally
Yeah.
every quarter. It's
That's
pretty crazy.
awesome.
So stuff like that is what my wish list, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's like you mean you've been in the business and you know what your pain points are, and you can, come together like that, and that's really cool. So how are things kind of set up? Like if somebody like how did you set up this business? I mean, I know you got members. You've talked about 10,000 plus people have gone through your program or whatever. Is it like how does that work when they're creating a business? They're learning, you're giving them all these materials, what's that relationship there? And are they building a business from scratch? What are they doing? Like curious about that side of it.
Yeah, there's a couple of different paths that they can go. So we've got a couple different trainings. One training we have is for their FAA 107, which is what they need to get licensed to fly commercially. Right now, it's fairly easy to take the test because it's just a written test. There's no proficiency test there, so no flight test. Kind of like getting your driver's license. If all you had to do was just take a written test and you don't have to show that you can drive, that's what they're doing. So I don't think it's right, but it's easier, at this point. But you still have to study and prep because it's different stuff that most people don't know. And so we've got a course on that to help people go through it. I've got a book that's pretty inexpensive. Actually, we can get it for your listeners. We'll do a free deal where the book's free if they just cover shipping. And anyone that's interested in getting their license, they can get that along with 8 bonus book resources with it. Then I've got a video course, which is more comprehensive. It probably is more than you need to know, but that's really for more visual learners or people that like to be over prepared for it. And so we've got the video course as well. And then the next progression is we have a little 2-hour kind of introductory training overview on what the drone business is, the opportunities, and kind of looking at some of the numbers and the things that you should focus on and shouldn't focus on. And then from there, we will invite people if they want to do a deeper dive for our 3-day immersion training. And we've got that for it's 3 full days, like I said, 10 hours a day. It seems like crazy long, but believe me, it goes by really fast and people love it. And we're doing it virtually now, so they can attend anywhere. That's $499, but we have a special for your listeners for $99 if anyone wants to come. So and there's a money back guarantee. If at the end of the first day, if you don't think it's worth, 5 times what you paid for it, then we'll give you all your money back, no questions asked, and any of the stuff we sent you, you can just keep, as my gift to you for doing it. But so then that's the 3-day training, and there we cover in depth a lot of the identifying the verticals, what's going to be right for you, which drone is right for you and the vertical, and how you go out and actually implement it. And we actually cover in detail how you can go out and get your first paying client that Monday, kind of like Adam did, that military veteran I was telling you about, the Air Force veteran. And he followed that same system, and then Monday went out there and just started making money. So that's what it is. And then we'll invite, there's an opportunity if some people want more training and they want more support, and then that's where they can join Sky Network, and then they get access to a whole lot more stuff and licensed proprietary access to all our copyrighted and marketing materials, and the business plans, and wholesale pricing, all that other stuff. The membership is super comprehensive. So that's kind of the progression that we have for people that want to go. Some people come to Drone Command Live and they're like, this is awesome, this is great, I'm going to go out, and they just take off and start going. And then other people want more structure, and they want more support, and they want to go faster, farther. And so they'll join the network, and then we just help turbo launch them from there. And that's basically the way it rolls.
That's nice. Yeah, kind of like introduce them with some materials and whatever, and then the membership, and you can join the network, and so you're like there to support every stage of everything. And it sounds like you answer all questions.
And there are different levels too. Like I started to mention it and I squirreled a little bit, but there are people that just want to, they're interested in the drones, and they want to be a pilot and work for somebody. They're just like, they just want to get hired and fly a drone.
Oh, right. So you got that angle. So you don't necessarily build your own business, but somebody's hiring somebody that could fly drones.
Yeah, so we can teach you the skills and how to position yourself and what they're looking for and what they're not looking for, and help build a resume around it, and that. And then the natural progression is, most people, if they go that route, after a few months or a year, they're like, I could do this all on my own and I can make way more money, right? So then they look at maybe a little side hustle where I could subcontract for some of these companies, and I could do stuff on the side. I'm still going to do my main gig, but I want to do stuff on the side. And then the next progression is, look, I want to just do a full-on business and build an asset, and I'm tired of, putting in, 12 hours a day to make somebody else rich, and build their company. So I'm going to do it for myself and my family. And then that's usually the progression that people go through on there. Some people get there in days. Some people it takes years, for them to get it. But pretty much everyone does it. I don't think anyone ever has the ambitions of being an employee the rest of their life. Once they learn a skill that's that's
they have to be introduced. Yeah, they have to learn something that grabs.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was kind of equated to like a trucking, like the trucking industry. Like you can get your CDL and you can go out and drive a truck. But a lot of those guys, they're like, man, if I owned a trucking company and I just had all these trucks going out working for me, and I built this asset, so now 5-10 years from now I can sell it for $5-10 million, and whether I'm on vacation or whatever, the trucks are still running, money's still coming in. Yeah, there's headaches and stuff to deal with that, but you have that in any business. And that's kind of the way I equate it. But most people don't go get their CDL, their commercial truck driver's license, and go, I want to start a trucking company, right? Like there's a little bit of a progression that goes through that,
right. Exactly.
That process.
So and so the business is what year did you start?
We started everything back in 2016. So
2016.
Yeah, the beta program was actually 2015. Well, the end of 2014, December 2014. But essentially 2015 is when we ran the beta program. And then we decided to launch it in 2016. And, at the time of this recording, we've had 14,000 people go through the training, over 30,000 people with the 107 training that I've done to help them with that. And then we have, a lot of cool, for people that are in, we have other certifications for them, certifications on mapping, on flight instruction, and basically every way to generate additional revenue. And again, these were all things that kind of came up as pain points for people. Like our guys would have people would come up and say, man, that's great. Well, can you teach me how to fly a drone? And then people, because they were nice and they loved the drones, they would work with them and teach them for free, but it was distracting and everything. So we built a whole training program around it where you could monetize it. And so our guys, they basically make about $5,000 a day training people to fly drones. They have classes of 10 people, $499 a person, and they schedule it. Most guys do 1 or 2 a month. And it's not their whole business, but it's just a great supplement, and it helps weed out those people that are like, hey, teach me to fly. Well, I'm glad you asked. I actually have a training coming up in 2 weeks. It's $499,
Right.
full day training. You'll get certified, blah blah blah. And then people are like, okay, great, yeah, I want to do that. Or, oh, I thought you were going to do it for free for me. Okay, never mind, I'm not interested. And then
Right.
it eliminates that whole thing. So it just makes it really easy. So
But yeah,
little things
but
like that.
I loved how you built it though. Like, that pilot program or that beta, whatever you call it, kind of proving the concept first that it could be done. That's a step that a lot of people probably skip. They just like have an idea and they just go for it and hope for the best. That's probably why a lot of businesses fail. But so from there, did it grow pretty fast? Was it like a pretty trajectory
Yeah,
as it
it's
grew?
really
And
gone
yeah, go ahead.
pretty consistently through it. And ironically, when COVID happened and everything got shut down, because we were primarily doing live event stuff. So we were pretty much going to hotels in different cities and introducing this to people. And then that got shut down. So our side slowed down just a little bit until we pivoted, but everybody else all of our members, their business, crazy growth, like 200%, 300, 470% year over year growth. I mean, it was just insane. And it just keeps getting bigger and better and better. Like this year, I think Precedence Research just released their study on the growth on the commercial drone space in the United States, which is not military or any of that stuff, just the stuff that we operate in. And I think we're going to wrap up this year around $29 billion in revenue. By 2033, so what's that, like 8 years from now, we're going to pass the $1.5 trillion mark. And somebody's getting paid for that.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm like, might as well be you.
As well. Yeah. That's what I'm glad you did. I'm glad you went there because that's exactly where I was headed. Because I wanted to see that kind of arc, like it's, and how it's going. Because I knew it's growing that big. So you're kind of at the beginning stages of this whole thing. Like
We really are. And that's the great thing about it is that the demand is higher than it's ever been, right? Like we've got
yeah,
more people are aware of it, more people are needing the services, and there's always little things that come up. Like there's this potential drone ban for DJI that's coming up. I don't think it's going to really amass to much of anything, and if it does, no big deal. The drones are just tools. So people get
yeah,
all freaked out. It's like, oh well, if Sears goes out of business and Craftsman's not there, and then I can't work on cars anymore, or I can't be a mechanic or a handyman, or I'll have to but no, you just go get another set of tools. Like if a tool breaks, you get another tool. It's not a big deal. But because of that potential fear, even the marketplace they're feeling like I've got to get it done now. So we've seen a big surge in the demand and the supply, which was the demand's been growing and the supply was catching up to it, but now it's actually dropped off a little bit. Because there's a lot of people that just fear. They're like, oh well, if there's a drone ban, I better just sit back and wait. I want everything to be perfect before I get into it, and so I'll just watch it for another 6 months or year or 2 or 5, and then all of a sudden 5 years it'll be too late. Because what'll happen is the supply and demand will catch up, probably 2, maybe 3 years, and then at that point, yeah, you can still get in, but it's going to be like any other business. So it's like if you wanted to open a pizza shop in New York, in Manhattan.
yeah,
I mean, you could do it, but it's going to be hard.
It's going to be difficult because there's
Yeah.
established businesses already there.
Yeah,
And you got to
and
go
you're breaking
compete.
into a competitive market as opposed
Yeah.
to if you were the first and only pizza shop in New York, I mean, you could suck and
Yeah.
still dominate, right? Because you're the only one, and that's kind of what we have now. And I always tell people, I don't want you to suck, but you can. You can still suck and do good, but don't suck. Be the best that you can be, and use that as a crutch to just get
Yeah.
started sooner.
Yeah.
And get going with it.
Yeah. It sounds awesome. So, as a business person and entrepreneur and had many businesses over the years, I got all kinds of ideas. Like I was just thinking as you were talking, like, yeah, they could outsource all their roofing, like chimney work. I could start a little business. They could outsource to me. They don't need to hire somebody in house to do that. I'll take care of it. There's all kinds of things you could
There's
do out
so
there.
much, and on the roofing thing, I know you didn't want to get on it, but one thing I wanted to share with you is just the software that well, there are several software companies, and one of the software companies that we use and recommend for our guys in the network, they did this pretty cool study where they went through and they got 100 roof claims. Basically, these were claims that were submitted, roof damage. The adjuster submitted it, and the insurance company denied them. So they got all 100 of these. They flew them with the drones, created the AI report with all of the damage and all the stuff and everything that was there, resubmitted all 100 of them, and 70 of them got approved. And so, I mean, like to your point, I mean, if you're working with a roofing company and they're struggling to get roofing jobs, and there are several ways you could do it. You could just charge them for each report you do, or you could charge them a commission, like a sales guy, and say, hey, give me all the roof reports that you had that were denied, and I'll go fly them all. You pay for you fly it, and you do the report analysis, and then they submit them, and then all the ones that get approved and they get hired, you get a 10% sales commission on it, right? And then it's just there's so many different opportunities and avenues there. And again, I think part of the insurance is their old their SOP is deny, 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 right? Like deny it at first.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing with the reporting is a lot of times they're not even having to send out adjusters because the information is so comprehensive and all the stuff is
Right.
there. And because the adjusters just basically take not as good
Could do the
pictures
same
we're
thing.
providing
Yeah.
for the
Right.
file,
Right.
just so they have a reference point for why they paid out on it and stuff. And this is a more detailed report than the adjusters are providing them. So anyway, and it's just going to get better and better, and the opportunity is just going to keep going,
Yeah.
blowing up. And there's going to be more stuff. Every one of these events that we do, one of these 3-day trainings, every single time there's somebody that comes up with some new idea, at least in theory, that I've never heard of before. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's brilliant. That's such a great idea. And
That's exciting. That's
even like,
exciting.
you, Matt, like even on the chimney thing, that's something that there are specialized people that just work on that and do that. And that's something that, I'm not aware of anything around there that focuses on that for that industry.
Yeah. No,
And what's it
it's
saying?
very
There's riches
exciting.
in the niches, right?
Exactly. You find your thing. That's what that's what I was asking about, how like the roadmap and stuff, how flexible it was. Like is a very defined, you pick have a few things to select, but pretty much you're designing around who you are and what you can do and probably where you live and what's available, what the opportunities are. And you can do it all remotely, which was the other question. I was curious. Damon, we could talk, we could just keep talking for hours. I feel I'm like sitting here and I'm stopping myself from going down these different rabbit holes.
Welcome to my
Like,
world, brother.
it's cool. It's so fascinating. And I don't get an opportunity to, like there's a lot of businesses out there and there's a lot of established businesses that have, are older businesses and it's harder to, like this feels just so like wide open. Like there'll probably be 1,000 different things you can do with drones within a few years.
Absolutely.
And with technology and we get into AI and I just can't, that would be a whole conversation in and of itself. We're going to have a part 3.
Let's do it.
Maybe.
Let's do it.
We'll think about it. All right. Well, Damon, we'll get her going. But thanks for sharing all that. It is very interesting and fascinating and exciting. And I have no doubt people watch this, somebody's going to be inspired to get into the drone business now after this conversation. So, if they need to find you on the World Wide Web, where do they go again, and where do you hang out if they want to talk to you?
Yeah, so they can find me on Facebook, The Drone Boss, or our event training that we do. The 3-day training is called Drone Command Live. So they can just Google Drone Command Live or dronecommandlive.com, and they can look that up there. And and then we'll make sure that they'll see the ticket price of $4.99, but that we'll hook your listeners up with smoking deals.
Appreciate that.
$99, like I mentioned.
Appreciate that.
So we can do it.
Thank you.
And yeah, to your point, it is pretty cool because this is one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that I've never been able to participate in my life. Went around for cars and airplanes and computers and cell phones and the internet and a lot of the other areas or playgrounds they take hundreds of millions of dollars to dip your toe in that arena. But this just pretty crazy, and it's a narrow window. You got to take advantage of it. But
what's the next thing after this? Like drones in space? Something? Okay, I'm
yeah. I'll give you a little twirl to go down. Look at Uber Air and see what's going on. I sit on the board at NASA at UTAM, which is Unmanned Traffic Management, and one of the things we've been working on for the last decade really is incorporating this low altitude economy, which is basically 400 feet and below, all the stuff that's going to be going on. So, organ deliveries and blood and prescriptions and regular deliveries and air taxis and all this stuff. So it's pretty cool, and we're right on the cusp of all that taking off. So exciting.
All right, this is awesome. Anyway, all right, Damon. Until next time, thanks for coming. Thanks for talking. Thanks for doing all that stuff. All right, bye.
My pleasure. Take care, man.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And UnifiedLabs.ai is where we explore smart, practical ways to integrate AI directly into your website and e-commerce flows. From intelligent chatbots to marketing automation to back-end reporting, all with a strong focus on user experience and making your systems work smarter. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with someone who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building smarter, bolder, and with purpose.